We are very grateful that we're able to broadcast from here today. And the weather is beautiful as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And what to mention is that it's just beside the old solar factory.
It goes with the sun, doesn't it?
It goes with the sun.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our concept. We used to have this IoT breakfast physically here in Sweden once a month before the breakout of the pandemic. So in June, we actually transferred online and we started to stream virtually from around a place called Kyrkviken outside Arvika. And we moved around to different locations and we have different concepts. Today we're going to talk about GreenTech, primarily solar energy, and how we bundle solar energy with emerging tech, such as artificial intelligence, blockchain technologies, and other emerging tech.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting.
And we will also spice it up with some cyber security, of course. So.
And in that line, we have a couple of guests with us. We have Paul Johnson with us. He's on the Swedish Parliament. We have Magnus Nilsson, who is at Global Energy Center. Alf Bjørseth is going to join us in half an hour. And then we have a studio as well in Oslo. And in Oslo, we have 4 guests. We have Karianne Melby from Startup Lab. She's going to take the startup aspect of renewable energy. We have Wilfred Pimenta Miranda from IoT Foundation. He's going to talk about the blockchain and DLT aspect of all this. We have Wilhelm Myhrer from Soliga and the Oslo Blockchain Cluster. And finally, we have Inger as well from the Solar Energy Cluster in Lillestrøm outside Norway. So it's a good group.
Yeah, exciting. And we have some sponsors today as well. We have Västra Värmland Sparbank, which is a local bank here. We have Compare and their initiative Digital Well Arena. We have D-Prod and Audioblix, which has helped us produce this event today. And we have Nemco. And Nemco is a leading global test and certification lab with a headquarters in Oslo, but they also have a satellite here in Arvika. They do certification and test of electric products, and they have an exciting offer now regarding cybersecurity as well. I think we can come back a bit on that later on.
Yeah, thank you very much, Robert. So before we go to our guests in Oslo, we're going to start with Oslo first, and then switch back to Sweden where we are now. We're just quickly going to mention a little bit about SCAALER IoT Labs, who we are and what we do. We're a cluster on the western side of Sweden, close to Norway. We work with corporate innovation around IoT and now startup innovation as well. So please, I'm reaching out to you. Anyone who wants to work with innovation with the IoT sector, get in touch and start working with us. Yeah. We have a global reach, but right now our competence cluster is between Norway and Sweden, and we really want to expand that out in Europe and out in the world.
Yeah, and we see us as a part of the Greater Oslo Region, but the important thing is that we are inside EU as well.
Okay, so do we have Oslo with us? Here we go. Hi, Karianne.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. Good morning.
Likewise. Good morning.
And we have next to you is Wilhelm. Hi, Wilhelm.
Yes, good morning.
And we have Wilfried. Hi, Wilfried.
Good morning, everyone.
And we have Inger as well, all 4 of you. I've prepared a few questions to you, so I think in the spirit of Corona, perhaps we should take one at a time, close to the camera. So let's start with you, Wilfred. Can you tell us a little bit about your corporate and startup background and what leads you to the work you have today in IoT Foundation?
Yeah, thanks. I'm originally from France, and I studied in Norway. Started to work in France on the offshore wind sector in the early 2000s, so very early stage. And then I came back to Norway to work for utilities and consulting firms in the power and utility sector. Eventually, I actually started to work for Alf as part of the Scatec group that we'll probably hear about afterwards. I did a hop in the civil engineering domain, working for, let's say, real estate, smart cities, and got very interested into the digital transformation. So back in 2016, I did a sort of disruption of my course professionally to look into the IoT, AI, and blockchain domain. And I eventually started to work with the IOTA Foundation at its inception before it was registered in 2017. And since then, I've been working on the interface between IoT and blockchain and working on business development, partnership engagement, particularly involving energy, smart city development. And I'll talk about it a bit afterwards, I suppose.
Yeah.
There are some projects in Scandinavia that are quite interesting.
Great.
Yeah. Can you explain how how digital ledger technology and blockchain can be applied to the energy space and how it relates to solar energy?
So the blockchain technology or distributed ledger in general is a new type of technology. It's often open source. So it provides a sort of open standard that we can build upon a sort of new digital infrastructure. And that will allow the development of platforms to enable solutions like peer-to-peer energy, allowing solutions to trace the origin of the energy. So we know where it comes from, either from sort of geographic standpoint or if it comes from green energy, for example. There's a long list of use cases and a big creative ecosystem looking at application domains. But
Great.
one of the key functions of blockchain is to centralize arenas of stakeholders.
Yeah.
It brings also new monetization possibilities to leverage on cryptocurrencies.
Wilfred, I know that you've been working a lot with the Positive City Charge project in Trondheim City, right? Can you tell us a little bit about what is this and what is the role of IOTA in this particular project? It's quite interesting, I think.
Yeah, so a few years ago, we engaged with different stakeholders, the academic stakeholders, NTNU in particular, so that's the main technology university in Norway. We joined a consortium of 32 partners with players like Powell or Trondheim Energi or ABB, and together we are creating a peer-to-peer energy marketplace that will allow real-time trading of energy into a smart district, and that will allow self-sufficient smart city district to blossom without putting too much constraint on the overall grid. And Trondheim, for instance, in Norway, is providing access to 3 different test beds. One of them is in NTNU, and we are already doing some testing on the field.
Yeah, okay. I heard about something called Alpha Venturi in Norway. You're involved there, right?
Yeah, so Alpha Venturi is an AS registered in Norway that I set up prior to my engagement in the IOTA Foundation. And I utilize it to incubate different concepts. So I utilize it to engage myself also in the IOTA project. And going forward, IOTA is coming to maturity and allows the acceleration of different innovations. So I will leverage on Alpha Venturi to invite different parties and start bringing some, let's say, local content in the Nordic area, starting with Norway.
Cool. Great stuff. I think a little bit back to what you mentioned before when it comes to the test beds in Trondheim. I think it's extremely important to both for corporates and for government sector to actually provide real life test beds on early phases, so you're actually able to test out stuff. And that's one of the things we focus a lot on here at SCAALER, to bring these stakeholders together so we can quickly go to market and test things, both in Norway and in Sweden, of course. So right back at you on that one. We're going to go to Inge now at the solar cluster in Norway. Can you hear us, Inge?
Yes.
Welcome here today. So let me see.
So, Inge, how do you see the solar industry market and its opportunities, not only in Norway, but in the Nordics and even in the global context?
Yes, well, the solar energy industry has seen a tremendous growth over the last few years. And yes, well, the Norwegian companies are, we like to say they are more or less born globally. So we look at the global market. And the analyst predicts that it will continue to grow. In fact, in 2050, they believe that solar energy will supply 1/3 of the electricity demand. So the market is very positive to solar energy. I think that one of the drivers or that will bring new business opportunities are digitalization. Where you see that solution for optimizing the asset utilization, you need to improve the energy efficiency. So you see new management system, control systems, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Also, we will see that digitalization will bring new opportunities for business models. And as Wilfred said, blockchain can be one of them. You will see new marketplaces where it will be required to have fast and secure transactions.
Great. So,
And not to forget, storage is a key for the future success. So the storage solution needs to improve their efficiency, and you need to see a high level of cost reduction.
great. Can you tell us a little bit about the development at the solar energy cluster in Norway now? Are your member mass increasing? Are you going into new concepts and ideas at the moment?
Yes. Well, if we look back at 2016, we were about 30 partners, and today we have over 100.
Wow.
So I think it pretty much mirrors the trends in the market. What we see is that we are kind of focusing, or the partners ask us to focus and put the resources into their kind of needs and challenges. Here it's important that we actually look out and collaborate with other environments, technology, communities, hubs, because we need to find the people that actually work with the new technologies that will move the industry forward.
Yeah.
Also, floating solar is a very hot topic and segment.
Yeah.
Where we see that at least the Norwegian partners can take a leading position in the global market.
All right. So what position would you say that you take in the solar cluster to actually support innovation in general and growth specifically in the community?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, the heart of the cluster is to actually facilitate meeting places and to build network. What we seeking to do is to increase value creation for the partners through engagement and involvement in research and innovation. We drive competence development. We are positioning the partners, and we do internationalization. Today we need to focus on building up the ecosystem around new technologies. That's very much at heart, and also to with growth and scale, the access to capital also become more important, and that's also something that we prioritize to actually build at these days.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Inger. Yeah. Karianne, are you with us as well?
I'm here.
Yeah, perfect. So, Karianne, for some people, AI and blockchain, IoT has become everyday life. It can be smart watches and everything. But for most people, it's still unknown. What will it take to get this into mass market?
Yeah, that's always the question, and I think this is where, when we're discussing exponential developments, the exponential curve starts when the market adapts. be into the technology and when the technology is well known. And if we look back at the shift from the digital camera or streaming of video, we had a lot of fighting. So we have the pirates and the crooks and the bad guys, and we see the same thing again with the blockchain and the development of adapting the technology. Yeah. And I'm curious to see when we have a blockchain solution that the mass market is adapting, and when we look at the video or the music streaming, it was also the devices that were. So I'm sure that as soon as we see some good use cases where a lot of people can start to join in, that's when it will happen. But for everyone listening now who are working on this and think that this is going very slow, I think you should just stay calm and work forward, and it will become a mass market adoption eventually.
Perfect. I think in that line, I mean, obviously we have right in the middle of a pandemic now, right? Changing a lot of things. But do you think to change this, would we need another crisis?
At least crisis and pandemics are helpful. We just saw a couple of companies at Startup Lab for this spring who were going slow in December and January, and then in March everything was just taking off. And it was simple services like a video conferencing service for your doctor. And if you think about it, who would go back to a life where you're going with high fever into the doctor's room, sitting waiting in the waiting room with all other sick patients? What you really want is just to have that video conferencing appointment and then stay home. So there are some obvious adaptation things that I hope we will see more of. Pandemics and catastrophes are helpful, but I think we also need to shift our mindset. We should start to be more curious about technology, engage with it. For those who are not into IoT or blockchain or cryptocurrencies or all the piracy stuff that we hear about, you should start to read about it and engage with it and think about what does this really mean for me? What will AI mean? Where are the ethical problems? All of the things that we all should start to understand more of.
Yeah. For those of the viewers that doesn't know you, Karianne, you're a central player at Startup Lab, which is perhaps one of the largest startup environments in Norway. An incubator, this is an investor environment, all these things that Karianne just mentioned over at the Science Park. So would you say that you can see an increase in interest from startups when it comes to this as well?
So that's the good thing about pandemics, because people are laid off and they have that incentive to do, to bring forward that little baby that they've done, their ideas and their aspirations. And then, so we are actually looking forward to this autumn, and hopefully we will see some great companies coming out of that shift. So there are people who now have the incentive to go out and do their thing. And there are some really good ideas and projects coming into Startup Lab at the moment. So it's really exciting.
Thank you very much, Karianne.
Likewise.
A lot of good aspects here. I think in that line, we'll continue to talk with one of the entrepreneurs who actually started not one, but actually quite a few startups in GreenTech. Wilhelm, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome. I know that you have a history both from Oslo, but also from here, where we are right now. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, correct. I grew up just outside Arvika, so I've been in Hillingsberg and Glava a couple of times as well, for sure.
We actually have played football together, or against each other.
Yeah. I guess we played a lot
back
of football
in the days,
games.
20 years ago, or more, 30.
Yeah. All right, so Wilhelm, tell us a little bit about one of your companies. It's called Soliga, right? And you incorporated in Sweden at the Karlstad Innovation Park. Tell us about the story. What's Soliga?
Yeah, Soliga was really, it came because I went over to look at the factory, I mean, where you are right now. And then I met Alf, and we looked at really seeing if we could take over the factory and start up production again. But the local bank sold it off to some other investors, and I figured since I knew Alf, then I had to use that competence and knowledge that he had from solar energy. So I decided to start the local solar energy company, and we did rooftop installations, and we did leasing of solar panels in Sweden, and I've been doing that from Karlstad. So we have a couple of houses there now with rooftop solar who's just paying every month like a leasing concept. So yeah, that was the starting point of Soliga.
Yeah. And since we have Wilfred with us here, and what opportunities and projects could be potentially combined with blockchain and the solar energy?
Yeah, it's a lot of opportunities. I mean, we've been working since I'm also part of this Oslo blockchain cluster. We've been looking at really how can Soliga make something based on the kind of all the developers we see using blockchain, really looking at into different concepts. And we see from our side, we've been looking a lot on the tokenization, how we can connect the financial side of blockchain with the solar energy, which is really interesting combination of kind of long-term interest yielding assets like a solar park, and you can add that into personal investments and also origin of like production. You can tie that into an ID and really connect to people anywhere to a certain solar panel or a certain almost kilowatt hour and where it's coming from. There's a lot of ideas, and we have a couple of companies spinning out of this that are, I think, can disrupt a bit both financial markets and energy market.
Really cool.
So, do you think this industry has growth potential in general?
Yeah, definitely. It's a huge growth potential.
Because it's all about adding
it's
value
like to
it's all about adding value, right, to the core technology. So, for example, when you bundle a blockchain solution to a dumb solar panel, is where you get some real value out of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like blockchain, they mentioned and Wilfred mentioned, it's a technology that really can facilitate a lot of things, and it cuts down costs in administration and transactions. So it can be implied in in any industry you can use it somehow. It's just finding those use cases that really make it worthwhile.
So what's your position on the crossover competence? We're talking a lot about competence when it comes to solar. We talk about competence when it comes to IoT, blockchain, AI, and all that. But to actually have crossover competence to make things work together, that's a demand, isn't it? And quite a challenge sometimes as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to innovation, that's one of the core things you need to look at. And you can dive really deep into something and become an expert and innovate that way. But I think really today, when there's so much happening in Internet of Things, blockchain, like quantum, CRISPR, you have all this wide range of technologies that didn't exist before. And suddenly you need competence in all of these, in addition to different industries. Experience from oil and gas will give you some insights that you don't have if you've only been an electrician doing solar. So I think you need this cross-industry, cross-technologies competences to really innovate, because then you'll see completely new solutions that were impossible to do 10 years ago. And that way you can actually disrupt a lot of the industries. I think that's a core to just an innovation environment.
And obviously a part of trust here would be the security aspect of things. And we're going to talk a bit more about that with Paul, who's with us today as well. All right, I have one last question to you. Think twice before you answer. How much do you owe Alf?
Way too much, I'm sure. Both in money and in the competence. I mean, he helped us kickstart Soliga, and he's still he's still buying us some panels that we need to pay him. And foremost, he's been kind of a mentor in that, and the way Alf works and the way he thinks is kind of really unique, and it's been worth a lot just to see how he looks at business models and his long-term thinking, and just how you can make this first deals for companies is really interesting. I learned really a lot from the meetings with Alf.
We can try to have a price tag later on from Alf, but we keep it out from this production. Yeah. So, but now we will jumping to our setup here. So we come back to you in Oslo later on. And Magnus.
Yes.
Tell us who you are and what you're doing here.
Yeah, so I'm Magnus Nilsson, working for Glove Energy Center, and we're working with the innovations and training in solar energy, I would say.
Yeah, cool. So, okay, you mentioned now innovation and stuff like that, but what activities are actually running now
Yes, I would say that we actually have 3 areas. First, I mean, it's the core business, I would say, it's innovations, and we support startups and innovation companies to develop their new innovations in solar energy and energy systems. I mean, it's a lot of batteries and energy systems in that. And then the second part is learning. I mean, the Scandinavian solar market is increasing, and so we develop and run training and education in that area to support the installers and developers.
But you have people from worldwide doing innovation projects here?
Yes. I mean, of course, we are working both locally, but also in many countries. And now we will test in coming weeks Russian batteries, for example.
Okay.
New battery technologies. So I would say that we're quite global in that aspect. But also Global Center, we are also kind of an innovation cluster, and also a market, a meeting place for the sector. And so we run conferences and workshops where actors can meet and develop new things here.
And you educate even people to install solar panels?
Yes, yes. So we have both training for installers and also for projecting and also project leading. And also lately now we made a solar park training for Armenia. So I mean we do what people ask us to do in solar energy, I would say. Okay. We customize trainings also for that case.
Great. So talk a little bit about innovation projects. I know that you've been running for a while. I think it's from 2010, correct?
Yes.
And within that time frame, you executed something like 60 innovation projects.
Yeah, 60 plus.
60 plus even.
That's amazing.
And that's from stakeholders from all around the world actually coming here. So I think that's amazing. You also have a production facility which is pretty much ready to scale to produce solar panels in. Very fantastic setup. In addition to that, you also have a test bed for solar panels. Can you just tell us a little bit about the test bed you have here?
Yes, I mean, what we do when we run products, we have, I mean, if we have an innovator that wants to develop something, and most of the time what we do is to link that innovator to students, and then together with innovators and students, we create something new. We said from 3 weeks to 6 months from an idea to the first test platform. And what we do is, I mean, the physical tests are important, and that most of the time we do it. We test it here locally in Glava, in our test park. So I mean, we connect innovators, students, and then we test it practically.
So for all the viewers we have here today, I saw that we had 46 countries who actually signed up. I don't know if there's 46 countries viewing, but I hope. What would you say to them? Could they come here and test their stuff?
Yes, I mean, if they have ideas, both for development and testing, they are welcome to discuss with us. And let's say like the Russian batteries, we take testing in some weeks. We're open for all testing and development, and especially connection between energy systems, solar energy, and energy storage. That's our, I would say, key. And what we're good in is we do it fast, and we have a good we know who to call. Running.
You don't have to answer this question, Paul, but you're not allowed to it now, actually. But you mentioned Russian batteries and stuff like that. Yeah.
No, but actually, it's a Norwegian company that is co-working with the Russian research organization.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to your innovation projects.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you run them? Quickly about financing and structure.
Yes, so I mean we are totally product driven. So what we do is to when we have an idea, we try to form a team. And then of course we need to know who to call and also where to find the money. And some of the projects we have a base funding like the Interreg, border region development, then European Union funded, and then we have some at least for 1 more year some money that we can support startups in that area. So then we can support them very fast.
Could new projects come here, contact you guys, and you help
Yes.
them with even applying for grants?
Yes, yes. So I mean, when you apply for a project, you need a good match with the kind of project team and which partners you needed. And then when we together can form a project and do applications and so on to realize.
And that could be hardware partners as well as commercial partners and even software partners,
Yes,
right?
yes. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of the projects we're running now are software based and in that area. So I mean, it's not only physical; it's a lot of controlling energy systems and smart control. Yes.
Yeah. I see we have Alfred here, so you can join us if you like to. Do you see any trends in the solar innovation? I mean, not only now during this pandemic, but even before maybe.
Yes, yes. But I see three major trends. I mean, the first is the digitalization. I mean, IT and IoT and artificial intelligence, and to combine the solar energy with this IT. I mean, a lot of the projects we are running now are getting larger and larger IT content. And it comes to control the smart energy systems, most of it combining this. And then the second one is sustainability. I mean, when we work now, we don't only work with solar energy. It should be sustainable solar energy with circular economy and so on. So it's climate smart solutions and doing solar energy even better and even more smart. And sustainable.
Really exciting if it would possible to actually certify the power that are.
Yes. And I mean, what we see now, the market is demanding more and more sustainability, and of course in solar energy we are there, but I think we could be even better. So we're trying to include this in the projects. And the third one is also with farming, and I think it's an interesting sector with both IoT and solar energy and farming in combination, and to create a new sustainable food production for the future. That I think is an interesting area to work with.
Okay, thank you very much,
thanks.
Magnus. Hi, Paul.
Hi.
You didn't travel far.
I
this
didn't
morning.
travel far at all. I think you have wonderfully locally produced panels here. I live on a much more modest farm about 5 kilometers away up towards Arvika. So it's a nice ride in the morning to come at this beautiful
So tell us a bit
mansion.
about what do you do every day?
What do I do every day? Well, I'm a member of parliament from the province of Värmland, and I'm also chairman of the Committee on Defense. And on the Committee of Defense, my bread and butter, so to speak, that is guns, bombs, cruise missiles, fighter aircraft. But we also pay increasingly more attention to cyber defense and critical infrastructure protection. So those things ties in a little bit for today's topics, I think. That's like the normal transition.
I think that touches quite well with your background in education as well, right?
Sure. Before I went into politics, I worked in the business sector for a few years, and then I'm actually an academic by training. I got a doctorate from King's College on European security, and I worked on government agencies and the Ministry of Defense, but predominantly on the security and defense side of things. So that's my background.
All right. So talking about threats and risks, what would you say startups have to consider as a number one?
Well, I'm no smarter in running business than people who actually conduct the business. But when I talk to the Swedish radio, National Radio Establishment, FRA, when I talk to the Swedish Civil Contingency Agency, and when I talk to the Swedish Security Service, the message is very concerted. The advanced persistent threats, or these state-sponsored, state-inspired, or state-conducted cyber attacks are increasing in scale and magnitude. I think that is a reality you have to consider if you're any business, and I think the energy business is being one of the sectors that are particularly appealing to attack, both because it's R&D intensive, and of course you also want to disrupt businesses. So there's think security from the onset, even if you're a big company or a small company, and develop a security culture within the company and do your risk assessment and so forth to think what kind of of information you really want to protect. I met several entrepreneurs when I worked in the business sector actually have to file for bankruptcy because their IPR was stolen or their design was stolen. And then of course those thousands of R&D hours that you put into a project is all gone.
To bring this back to renewable energy then, which laws and regulation are affecting the renewable energy business?
Well, I can only speak on the general basis, and I talk as a legislator from the Swedish side of it. Of course, then we have a new law on information security when we integrate all the CIA, the integrity, the accountability, and the what do you call it, the C aspect of it. So we have a law on information security. We also have a new law on protective security, säkerhetsskyddslagen. You might have heard that for the most sensitive things. And of course, on the energy side, also the networking security, the EU regulation, the NIS directive. All of that is kind of coming within a few years' time. So we're catching up on the legislative side.
Yeah.
If I can say one word on the organizational side as well, but we are now revamping a lot of the work on the government side. We're actually establishing a cyber operations center, which is for government agencies who are pooling the resources. And of course, I look with MB on Norway when you have the NSM solution, where you have an all-hazard agency. And in Sweden, we have tended to spread the resources thin. But I think we're learning from the Norwegian, from the Danes and the Brits when it comes to cyber operations center.
Are we well positioned in the Nordics? Do we have the competence needed?
Well, I think that's a great paradox, and I think Sweden stands out here because I think Norway and Denmark and even Finland actually scores a little bit higher. But the paradox of the Nordics is that we do digitalization wonderfully. If I rank Sweden internationally, we maybe top 5 when it comes to digitalization. But when our security measures are reviewed, do we have a cybersecurity strategy in place? Do we have this all mandatory incident reporting? Do we have all these quick teams to come and have? We don't score so well, and that means that if you're very digital but you don't do the security side, then you're actually quite vulnerable. So I think that we're growing exponentially on the digitalization, and we're not quite catching up with the security, and that keeps me awake at night, because if you go down the route of digitalization, you open up so many vectors if you don't secure your networks.
Yeah. Maybe we should run another event and invite NSM and others.
I would love to go there when we open the border.
And
yeah, that's true.
Yes, to mention NEMCO actually. There will be a new harmonized regulation to actually test products, electric products, and I know NEMCO is having a great offering going on in that area.
I think standardization is extremely important in this sector, and something catching up, and especially a country like Sweden who started the digitalization process quite early, which means that we have a depth because we have a lot of different systems, which create a lot of vulnerabilities as well.
Yeah. You're also in Nordic Council of Ministers and Nordic Council.
The Nordic Council, yeah.
Yeah. What are ongoing there?
Well, I mean, if you're a member of parliament from the province of Värmland, it's in your DNA to work with Norway. I mean, especially here in the western Värmland. I mean, the prosperity, Alf, that you have brought to this region and many with you, that's been like a tremendous journey for us the last 10 or 20 years. So everything I can do to remove all kind of border problems of this. We talked about this, Robert, since you spent so much time in Norway as well. So we work a lot in the Nordic Council of removing tariffs and barriers from trying to enhance mobility, but we're also increasingly working on security. And those of you who know the history of the Nordic Council they used to say a little bit mean that the members of the Nordic Council, there was the member of parliaments who liked to travel but didn't speak English, and we always try to speak Nordic and so forth. And security was thought to be too important to be spoken Nordic Council. Today it's actually the way around. The security is so important that we can't avoid it. And about 20% of the agenda of the Nordic Council today is security. And we drafted recommendations to the governments on cybersecurity, which I had the lead on. So also increasingly working on that.
Would you
as well.
say that the Nordic countries, particularly Norway and Sweden then, because most of the viewers are from there, would it be harmonized? Do everyone agree? Do we have the same ideas how to do this?
Well, I think on the policy side, we politicians are not terribly well informed on cyber and information technology. It's like a domain that is quite abstract, and you don't tend to get voters on it and so forth. But I don't see a lot of diverging preferences when we talk about it. So it could be that we're not talking from a position of knowledge. But on the Nordic cooperation side as well, we have between the Swedish Civil Contingency Agency and DSB in Norway, they work on cyber, and I think it's going to be one of those avenues that we're going to be working much more in the future, actually. Yeah, we can learn from each other.
When we are into this Nordic Council, of course, you have the infrastructure between the capitals in Sweden and Norway also, and Arvika is in between there, a very big
You
part
can't stop me from saying this, but I'm love to build a much better railway between Oslo and Stockholm, of course.
You just ask Elon Musk to put the tube between.
If we would get that, we can commute between Arvika and Oslo in 39 minutes. So.
I like that. Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much.
39 minutes from Oslo into EU. That's amazing.
Yeah, and think about then we would transition from flying between the two capitals to actually so our carbon footprint would be much less if we could get this railway in place.
Great. Okay. Welcome, Alf.
Thank you.
Or actually, we should say thank you for being
For having
here.
us.
We're at your beautiful residence here in Hildingsberg Mansion.
Yeah, it was even closer for me than for Paul.
What a fantastic place you have here.
Thank you.
And the view is absolutely beautiful, and the weather is fantastic. And the sun is up. Since we're talking about the sun, I think that's a good metaphor.
Yeah.
Alf, a few questions for you. Number one, you've been working a lot with corporates. Your background is strong in academics. And then one day, after having all these quite heavy positions, you decided to, at an early stage actually in Norwegian history, start working with startups. Tell us a little bit about that. What made you take that decision? Because back then that wasn't so common, was it?
Maybe it was not so common, but for my own personally, I think working with R&D, which I've always been done, either academic or industrial, also created a strong wish inside that I want to create something meaningful, and hopefully something big and profitable. And that's became stronger and stronger. So when I saw the opportunity, at that time I was director of technology for the largest silicon producer in the world. And I saw this technology, photovoltaic technology based on silicon, or kisel, as they say here in Sweden. That was really what I wanted to work with. So I tried to do it inside the company I was working with, but that did not get any good feedback. So I decided to leave the big companies and start working for myself.
Okay.
And I never looked back.
No. Tell us a bit about the history and the background of Scatec, and what projects are you running there?
Well, Scatec, which in all modesty means Scandinavian Advanced Technology, is working with two topics right now. It's renewable energy and it's advanced materials. And both of them are things which are growing and things that the society needs. And that's why we think that we are fulfilling an important role in a modern society by developing new things inside these two areas. And we have, I think, about 10 companies now in Scatec. The biggest one we have done was, of course, the Renewable Energy Corporation, REEC. The biggest operating now is Scatec Solar, which is noted on the Oslo Stock Exchange. And we have some other companies that are expanding very fast and will be in the same situation in the foreseeable future.
Cool.
We know that you have a very strong feeling about GreenTech in general. I know you have some projects down in Africa, amongst others, renewable energy. What drives you towards these areas?
It's a strong wish to do something which is meaningful. And Africa, of course, solar energy is more effective when you have a lot of sunshine. So that's obvious. It's a good place to work. And in many places, decentralized energy generation is the solution, because to put up a national grid in a country today is very, very expensive. But I think this hooks back to what Paul said earlier also, that in a defense situation, we know now that unexpected things happen. The coronavirus has changed society tremendously, and we know that we are so dependent on electricity supply. And if we can, in a country, can stop energy generation by some terrorist act on a transformer station or a hydroelectric power plant, not to talk about the nuclear plant, then decentralized energy generation could be a very, very important solution to help a situation like that. So redundancy in itself, and that could be a very important reason to do it also in the Nordic countries, for instance, or other countries, where you don't have the same sunshine, but you have the possibility to survive in a very critical situation.
Cool. Myself decided during this pandemic to take the step and be an entrepreneur and start my own company. And I have a question, but also others I know have a question to you. What advice do you have to aspiring entrepreneurs who want to take the step into that world?
That's very difficult, and I mean, all entrepreneurs are different. So there's not one rule or one advice that will be valid for everybody. But I think the most important thing is that you have passion for what you are doing.
Yeah.
Because passion is the driving force. Passion is what make you overcome challenges and difficulties. And passion is the one that is really putting all your personal energy into one task.
Yeah.
So without passion, I don't think it's possible to be successful. With passion, you have a chance.
Yeah. As you mentioned earlier here now, that you haven't never looked back, and I heard that from many others as well.
Yeah.
So amazing.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alf.
My pleasure.
We have a little bit of time left, and what we would like to do now is to bring Oslo, our studio in Aker Brygge, back online, and we have a little chat here together with Sweden. We'll try to keep it more like a roundtable structure, so we can all talk about pretty much what we want. We have a few questions here in case nothing starts. But if we start with you, Paul, you have a lot of opinion. Do you have a topic you would want to raise?
As a politician, I'm strong opinionated, but I actually want to catch up about what Alf said about having some kind of continuity planning in case our major energy grid breaks down, and we had incidents of that happening in Ukraine and other places, and therefore I see alternative sources being water or being solar or being wind as important, because we can't always, in case Sweden would come in a case of war, we cannot rely on our nuclear power plants, for example, and therefore I think that spreading your risk and having kind of resilience, that's something that is also quite topical in the forthcoming defense decision that we're going to be taking in this fall in the Swedish Parliament, and establishing some kind of increased societal protection or civil defense that's actually come back into fashion again, also in the political arena.
This is valid even if we're not in war ourselves as well, because it will not be possible to buy energy from others.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what we learned from the pandemic is that even black swans, even the unexpected can happen. I always think about the 9/11 Commission, the failure of imagination, and I think we should be cautious about trying to predict, but we need to you keep. Thank you. You need to have a plan B when things goes sour, and it tends to surprise us all the time.
Yeah. But could I just add one thing to what Paul said here, and that is already Aristotle. He said that it's likely that something unlikely happens. So we have to be prepared, and this has been known for human mankind for more than 2,000 years. So we have to be prepared that something unlikely will happen.
On the Norwegian side, we had World War 2 times this century. So I think it's in our DNA as well to be prepared. It's deep down.
Yeah,
so it goes
absolutely.
with this. Oslo studio, any comments on that or any topics you want to raise?
We are prepared for the...
Not for that question, maybe.
You're already prepared. Everything is set in Oslo. Okay. I have a topic. Now, if we are to expand this technology and these concepts globally, are we in a position here in the Scandinavia or in the Nordics to take a global lead? Are we up to par? Can we take a lead? Can we be best in the world in what we do? Alf?
I have one answer to that, and that is a clear and loud yes. We have done it before, and we can do it again. And we have all opportunities to do it. We have good R&D basis. We have good technology for producing the basic material, silicon. We have the possibility to expand, and we have access to capital, which is necessary because, of course, with solar energy, all the cost comes up front. So we need a lot of capital to get started, but this is possible. So I think we can take a lead.
Inger, that's good news, isn't it?
Yes, and I couldn't agree more than with you, Alf. I think it's we have we have the position and we can do it. We have shown it. We have partners and companies that are worldwide and leading, but we need to collaborate and join forces in order to actually.
Yep.
And we need to be on our toes because the competition is increasing from other places in the world that are pouring in a lot of money into R&D. But I think, we have the right structures. We work quite good on this triple helix between academia and government agencies and the business sector. We're well-trained population. I think 5G is going to be one of the things that we work on a Nordic basis to implement it and so forth to get our infrastructure into place. But the competition is increasing from other places, so we can't take anything for granted.
And we have, of course, lead on some innovation projects even here, Magnus.
Yeah, and I think it's fantastic opportunities, and it's an open area. So it's just we need to be on our toes and just continue to take the opportunities and drive them.
You were into that concept of triple helix before. I know that Karianne, you're part of MIT REEP, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And you guys work around something called the pentahelix, where you actually added 2 levels of stakeholders. Can you expand on that a little bit and tell us about the MIT pentahelix model?
Yeah, so the pentahelix model means that we have all the 5 forces, the entrepreneurs, the investors, academia, existing corporations, and also public sector. And when all those 5 join together and sit down and discuss and put forward solutions, then you are something that is substantial and can move fast.
Great.
I don't know if we have mentioned it, but we have the solar cluster in Norway and we have Greater Energy Center. How is the cooperation between you two?
Yeah, I think it's a very good cooperation, and we do mutual projects and we participate in each other's activities. The border is only a line. Many of the projects we're running are in Glava are Swedish and Norwegian corporations. I mean, I think we have a very good cooperation there.
So we might have a lot to learn from you how to actually demolish this border, even for other sectors then.
Yeah. So I mean, we have a very good, and I mean, since the last 10 years, we've been running Scandinavian, Swedish, Norwegian innovation projects within solar energy, and there we have a good partner both on Swedish and Norwegian side, and contact. We know how to call in both in Sweden and Norway when we want to do things.
I have a question. I think it goes to Wilhelm or to Wilfried. You can decide yourself. But when it comes to this concept of bridging hardware with emerging tech, we agree that there's some challenges ahead to make that happen, of course, although there's a lot of opportunities. What would you say would be the major hurdles or major challenges that we need to kind of solve to make that happen?
I think generally there are some business models that needs to be addressed where hardware and digital comes together. But there's an underlying function around security and privacy management that was a bit discussed earlier. We didn't talk too much about privacy, but I think that the future is going to be around 5G, real-time, data-driven business models. And obviously we want to be customer-centric also in the energy field, and that means we're going to tap into our personal data. At the end, we need to have solutions that are GDPR compliant, and it will take some effort to find some good solutions that are linking hardware and software that allows the consent of sharing of data to the level of personal data. It's a whole field of investigation. I think in Norway we have done some efforts from the data protection authorities to look at sandbox that will allow also to look at the new regulatory aspects related to this. I think this is a really, really hot topic that is a complement to all the efforts that we can drive, let's say, from a traditional solar industry perspective. So on our side, we're going to put a lot of efforts. And recently, we set up a new collaboration with the University in Oslo to investigate the field of digital identity and personal data management.
Thank you, Wilfried. Any other comments? Alf, do you agree on the fact that we have a few challenges in bridging these two things together at the same time? There are opportunities, so we should really try to move on.
Absolutely. And if I may, I could just mention one example, and that is in the production of silicon wafers. In Norway, we have one company called NorSun, and that's now the only producer of monocrystalline silicon wafers in the Western world. It's been extreme competition from China, especially China, or low-cost producers. But because this company has been very focused on developing technology, improving production, reducing cost, increasing quality, in the company and in cooperation with the academics and research organizations, they have been able to survive. They still have the highest quality, and they still supply to the most critical customers around the world. And this is a way that we can survive by using R&D in the right way, using internal innovation in the right way. And I think that's a very good example that we can do something in high-cost countries if we do it in the right way. And I think that is a good basis to build on.
Sounds a lot like an opportunity.
It is an opportunity, and opportunity is always when you have challenges. They go together. Yeah. So do it in the right way, then you can be very successful.
I think with that words, we'll thank you very much, all of you actually, for joining us here today. Thank you, Alf, Magnus, and Paul for coming here physically, and thank you all from Oslo for joining us virtually as well. For the viewers out there, please get in touch with us. You can send an email to me or to Robert at david@scaler.com or robert@scaler.com, and ask us any question you would like. If you want to partner up with us, if you want to start an innovation project here at Glava Energy Center, get in touch. We'll help you out. So thank you very much, and hope to see you very, very soon at our next event, which we'll post shortly.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.